Welcome back to EDLR 7312, Qualitative Research. This particular module, we're going to talk about the standards of validating your research and evaluating your research. Now remember, as you're going through your data, writing chapter 4 and 5, triangulate your data. Make sure you look at it from a time standpoint, a space standpoint, and also from a person or participant standpoint. You can look at multiple researchers in an investigation on your topic and make sure that you use triangulation when you're looking at the theory that's involved. There may actually be one or more theoretical schemes, especially when you're doing phenomenological research. In qualitative research, we talk about validating your research, and that really means that you're assigning a judgment to the trustworthiness or the goodness in a piece of research. There is an ethical validation, making sure that all your research agendas answer the question of the underlying moral assumptions, looking at political and ethical implications, and also an equitable treatment of diverse voices, both pro and con of your topic. You should also look at those practical answers to research questions from other points of view. Now, when you look at a substantive validation, you're understanding one's own topic, derived from other sources, and the documentation of the process in your study. When validating your research, when you look at it from or through a researcher's lens, you're corroborating evidence through triangulation, which we have talked about in this module. You're also discovering if there's any negative case analysis or disconfirming evidence of your topic, and you also need to ensure that you clarify the researcher bias involved. Now, when you're looking at your research through a participant's lens, you need to make sure that you're checking and seeking participant feedback all along, that you have a prolonged engagement or a persistent observation in the field, making sure you spend the amount of time that you need to spend with those participants, interviews, focus groups, observations, whatever you're doing, and that you're collaborating with the participants. They need to feel and be an integral part of your study. When you look at validation through a reader or a reviewer's lens, you're also looking at those external audits of the research, people looking at every piece of your study. They're looking for a rich, thick description, especially in chapters 4 and 5, of your data collection and analysis. Also, having a peer review or a debriefing of the data and research process helps you out as you go along. When you're getting ready to defend dissertation, having an editor review the document, not just for grammatical or punctuation errors or even syntax and APA errors, but have someone review it with an eye toward making sure you've got all the pieces of the dissertation taken care of, and that you followed all your guidelines and procedures that you set out when you started the survey. Evaluating your research and dissertation are consequential in what goes on. Look at, does your research questions drive your data collection and analysis? Did you actually do the type of study that needed to be done to answer your research question? Is the data collection and analysis techniques competently applied? Also, are your assumptions explicitly spelled out in your dissertation? Does your study have an overall warrant? Is there a need to study what you wanted to study? And does the study have informing and improving practices, protecting participants' confidentiality and privacy, and truth-telling of the participants? If you've done a narrative study, you need to evaluate it by answering several questions. Does it focus on an individual or a specific group of individuals? Is there a collection of stories about an issue? Is there a chronology that connects those phases or aspects of your study? And does it tell a story? As you evaluate your phenomenological research or dissertation, you have to answer these questions. Does the researcher articulate a clear phenomenon to study? Did you use the right type of methodology, quite frankly? Is there an explanation of the understandings of those philosophical tenets of the phenomenon? That's going to be found in Chapter 2 especially. Now, are the procedures of your data analysis explained concisely in Chapter 3 and 4? And do you communicate the overall essence of the experience by those participants? When evaluating a grounded theory dissertation, you should be able to answer these questions. Is there a focus on the process, action, or interaction that's a key element of your theory in the study? Was there an integration of coding process in the model that you used? Did your study present the theoretical model in a diagram or figure? Those are pretty important when you're trying to get your points across. Did the study advance a storyline or a proposition that connected those categories of your model? And did you use memoing throughout the research process? And we talked about memoing a couple of modules back. So a good ethnography study or ethnographic study should answer the following questions. Does the researcher convey clear evidence and identification of a culture sharing group? Did you give a rich, thick description of those folks that are involved? Is there a specific cultural theme that you're looking at? And did you describe it in detail and communicate it clearly? Did you identify any issues that arose while you were in the field collecting data and analyzing that reflected on the relationships between the researcher and participants? And did you explain how the culture sharing group worked overall? As you evaluate case study research or dissertations, you need to answer the following questions. Did the researcher clearly identify the case or cases to be studied? Did you present a rationale for the cases that you selected? Make sure you include all of those characteristics. Is the case described in detail? Are those themes identified in the cases articulated well? Did you ground them in research rather? And did the researcher report any assertions or generalizations from the cases in the study?